Good evening. When I stood in Parliament to debate the 2023 budget, I was hopefully optimistic. You see, given the fact that the new Minister of Agriculture is a farm owner and claimed that he grew up in farming, I assumed that, like myself, he wanted to see the best for agriculture in Antigua. I assumed that he wanted to see the agriculture sector progress. I thought that he wanted to see the sector play a meaningful role in establishing our food security and even our food sovereignty, Madam Speaker. That he wanted to see an enabling environment being created for the people who work so hard under such unpredictable climatic conditions. Unfortunately, almost a year later, and all my hopes have been dashed. Last debate, I did the unusual, Madam Speaker. Unusual by presenting before the minister that I was shadowing. It's unusual because I firmly believe that those on the government side should present first. They should report on their stewardship. They should talk about what is going on in their respective ministries. And we on this side would respond. So what my advisors and I did is that we try to provide guidelines. We try to steer the ship in the right direction. And I think we did a good job, so much so that the minister went back to PAC and got the technicians to counter my entire presentation. So his presentation was about my presentation, completely forgetting that he was the minister, not me. Today I can say boldly and without hesitation that this government has failed the people of Antigua and Barbuda. And failed them miserably. So it didn't matter whether I presented first, second, or last, because they could do nothing but come and present a set of lies and misfigures. And those are my words, Madam Speaker, misfigures. Don't change them. And to add insult to injury, they are burdening the people of Antigua and Barbuda with a set of unnecessary taxes, taking back the little increase that they promised the public sector before the people could see 1 red cent. The minister cannot point to one single improvement in agriculture. Not one. Well, with the exception of a farm to the west of Russ Freeman, we could call the Green Farm for today's purpose, and a farm in Pierce Village that we refer to as the Brown Farm. Outside of those 2 farms, Madam Speaker, they can point to no success in agriculture. As soon as the ministers finished giving his budget presentation, he jumped on a plane and he took off, because that's what they do best, competing to see who is the best fly minister, racking up frequent flyer miles. He said in his budget presentation, the Minister of Agriculture, that, quote, agriculture needs boots on the ground, end of quote. Those were the very words that Minister Green said. Madam Speaker, the stories coming out of agriculture from the technicians, horror stories. Horror stories. Is only the fate of God why we haven't had fatalities up here. Horror stories. The working conditions are so terrible. The ministry headquarters need to be abandoned. So much so that they have now taken it and putting it into our hospital on Nugent Avenue. I guess that is them acknowledging that Agriculture is sick. Can you imagine? And we're going to get to the Nugent Avenue Hospital in just a bit. The minister and the government showed no concern about the well-being of the sector, nor the employees who continue to toil in substandard conditions, Madam Speaker. They have the gall to talk about civil servants' performance. The entire sector has gone in reverse. Next door to that infamous bridge round south, we once had a thriving pineapple field where we grew our pride and joy. Sweetest pineapple, the Antigua Black. Those of you who have been round south recently know that it is now a paddock, a grazing field for cattle. Madam Speaker, I want the minister to tell the nation what decision was made with the pineapple estate. I want the minister to tell the nation, tell the parliament, what plans or who did you plan to give the lease for the Cades Bay pineapple estate, the pineapple field in Cades Bay? I want the minister to tell parliament who holds the document for the research center at Cedar Valley. Who have you and your government given away our agricultural research station to? And when you don't answer those questions honestly, for goodness sake, just resign. Just resign. The plant protection unit, Madam Speaker, was removed from out Cedar Valley and moved to a rented building at the top of Corn Alley. Up to today, the employees of that arm of agriculture go home half day every day. And it's not because they're lazy, eh? It's not because they want to. It's because of the conditions that they're forced to work in. The productivity in the public sector is at an all-time low because of poor working conditions. The poor state of the government buildings, the clinics, police station, ministry buildings, our lone hospital, the operating theaters, and I could go on and on. Low productivity due to poor working conditions, unhealthy working conditions, especially toilet facilities because there's no water. Our agriculture sector has suffered tremendous losses, Madam Speaker, from the effect of climate change. The heat wave wreaked havoc on the farming industry. Vegetables weren't producing like they were producing before. Plant can't hold flowers. No flowers. There you go. Poultry egg production dropped due to the savage heat. Agricultural workers were suffering under the heat and drought conditions. The heat affected even the fishing industry as well. Now, the government travel every minute. They go on this conference, that conference, to talk about climate change, this, climate change, that. What have they come back to Antigua and implemented? What have they said to the agricultural workers here in Antigua and Barbuda? So what's the point of them traveling? Apart from per diem and frequent flyer miles. We hear nothing from the minister nor the government. Nothing. After the heat wave, Madam Speaker, we've had flooding and storm. Still no word from the ministry and the Minister of Agriculture. Too busy on plane. I called today to see where they. They say on plane. The giveaway kickback government that we have, they've already given away half of Diamond Estate. Those of you who know anything about farming in Antigua know that Diamond Estate is our main agricultural sector. Your main station, Diamond. And they've given away half of it. To who is the question? Mr. Minister, the people want to know who was the land given to. Our farming community is faced with deplorable and in many cases, impassable roads. In fact, the only infrastructure, only farm that have proper road is the one I mentioned, the two I mentioned earlier, the brown farm and the green farm. I guess maybe Diane Black should get a farm too, and you never know. See, Madam Speaker, while I thought the minister from Barbuda was bad in agriculture, and then the one up by me in St. George was worse. And then the lady who followed him, I won't even mention it. It appears to me as though this present Minister of Agriculture is looking for the trophy of the worserest Minister of Agriculture in the history of Antigua and Barbuda. In the regurgitated budget, the minister again spoke about road construction. He mentioned that in the 2023 budget presentation. Road construction. Let me read what he says. He mentioned water and that the farmers would be receiving water on their farms at a 50% subsidized rate. Madam Speaker asked him which farmer. Which? Because I speak to farmers daily. They don't know anything of it. It said in the budget speech again, Madam Speaker, that the average output for agriculture skyrocketed to over 40% increase, taking it to 94.8 million. And the projection for 2024 is $110 million. Sounds good, Madam Speaker. Mr. Minister, my question to you is, where did you get those figures? With the adverse weather conditions that we had and the lack of support from the minister and the government, please tell us here in Antigua and Barbuda, how is that possible? I refer to the budget book, the business plan. These aren't my words. These are the words of the government, Madam Speaker. It says, exogenous factors such as climate conditions, pest and disease outbreaks, etc., has resulted in less than optimal production. Let me repeat this so you hear me again. It says in the government's business plan on the agriculture that exogenous factors such as climatic conditions, pests and diseases, etc., has resulted in less than optimal production. Then explain to me where we're getting this increase of $110 million from. Something to add up, the math not mathing. Madam Speaker, the minister also said in his 2023 budget presentation that the government already made a deposit on the chicken abattoir. The government has made a deposit on the chicken abattoir. Then they had a drum beat. They beat the chest, they beat the desk. My question, Madam Speaker, where am they? It's been a year. Where is that chicken abattoir that they supposedly made this deposit in? We are calling on them to make account to the people for that money and the abattoir. And if you think robbery facing the business community, such as gas stations and so bad, Madam Speaker, you're going to ask the farmers, ask the vegetable farmers, ask the small stock cattle farmers and poultry farmers about predial larceny. The news will rock you. The news will shock you. And we are hearing nothing again from the Minister of Agriculture, who only shows up at budget time. That's the only time he remembers that he's a Minister of Agriculture. The rest times he's too busy being Minister of Foreign Affairs because that's white collar. You know, agriculture is dirt on their fingernails. You see. Even down to the Seventh-day Adventist school, the poultry farm was raided. The teachers are crying. Even in the schools, it's that bad. See, I want to move on to another matter quickly, Madam Speaker, because I think I've said enough for the minister, if he cares about this country, if he's patriotic, to just resign. Call it a day. Call it a day. But we are at a precarious position right now in this country. The question is, how did we get here? How did we get here? A Daily Observer article, Madam Speaker, on the 30th of January 2019, pointed to the previous Minister of Education falling on his sword and apologizing to the Prime Minister. Notice who he apologized to. Not the taxpayers who were burdened with their nonsense. Not the children of Antigua and Barbuda, but to the Prime Minister for a debacle we call the e-book scandal. Madam Speaker, that cost the nation upwards of $80 million. $80 million that ended up in the garbage bin down Cooks. The minister said he was taking full responsibility for the breaches, but there was no action taken against the minister for costing the taxpayers of this country $80+ million. And the question is asked, why was there no action taken against him? He already took culpability. But the answer is simple. Sungu no better than Lungu. $80 million, Madam Speaker. You know how much toilet paper that could buy for Mount St. John? You know how much bandage, how much paracetamol, how much sterile gauze that could buy? The clinics in Pickett's is in desperate need of a sterilizer. Desperate need. If they have anything to sterilize, they have to call a driver. Drive down to Mount St. John, have it sterilized, wait to bring it back up there while patients are there waiting to be... Yes, it's a fact. If we had 1 million of that 80 million, Madam Speaker, the 3 clinics in my constituency would be better off. Just 1. I'm sure other members would like 1 out of 80 million as well. In 2023, March 14th, Madam Speaker, we walked into Parliament unaware of a scheme to use Parliament to take away people's something, to seize a luxury yacht. You're wondering how we get where we are. I'm telling you. You all know what transpired. You were there. With this harebrained scheme that has cost the taxpayers of this country some serious money. Some news outlet estimates that we are spending upwards of $200,000 a week. $200,000 a week because of your avariciousness. Madam Speaker, given that we've had 44 weeks since then to now, my rough math put that at $8.8 million. Had we left the people thing where it is, that $8.8 million could help to fix that sewer eye on Factory Road that the Minister of Public Works said in her 2023 budget presentation they were going to look at. Well, they obviously just looked, but they didn't do anything. They haven't done anything. $8.8 million, Madam Speaker. We could do with some of that in our constituencies. Yeah? The government again, Madam Speaker. has spent over $22 million. Listen me carefully. To retrofit the NTTC building in Nugent Avenue. Over 22 million taxpayers' dollars to retrofit that building in NTTC. Madam Speaker, you could have built that building twice with that money. You could have built that building twice with that money. But we spent 22 million to retrofit it into a hospital. Up to now, not one patient, not one has ever checked in India. Not one. And so what have they done now, Madam Speaker? They spend another set of millions again to retrofit the retrofitted building into now office space. And now they don't spend that money to retrofit the retrofitted building. You hear they can't use it because you have in mold. Nobody checked it before, Madam Speaker. So all that extra taxpayers' money just gone in smoke. No accountability, but you're taxing the living daylights out of poor people. Madam Speaker, I heard in the warm-up when I was on my way down here, I heard the senator saying that the Minister of Health will go down as the worst Minister of Health in Antigua's history. I echo that sentiment. But then me also tell you who he fought Mickey Day. I agree with him. Malwin Joseph micromanages everything in the Ministry of Health. So everything that goes wrong there falls squarely on his lap. Under his watch, Madam Speaker, the morale of the staff at the hospital is at an all-time low. Poor treatment of physicians, nurses, ancillary health staff. Salaries that leaves a lot to be desired. No resource of professional development. No real standards of care. And the minister cannot extricate himself, Madam Speaker, because he micromanage everything. You don't say howdy unless he get permission. Since October of last year, I see you checking the time, Madam Speaker, speak faster. All 4 operating theaters are closed due to poor maintenance. Good Lord. We have 1 hospital, Madam Speaker. And under this government that boasts that we're an economic powerhouse. 1 hospital. And Malwin Joseph cannot maintain the 1 hospital. All 4 operating theaters locked down. Sir Malwin, I apologize, Mr. Senator.
Honorable member, you have 5 minutes left.
Make it talk faster. The entire hospital, Madam Speaker, and I know your husband must be rolling his grave because he's a great surgeon. He did great work up there. I'm begging for 2 more minutes here. Buttering her up. The entire hospital, Madam Speaker, is without AC in the temperate country that we live in. Thank God it's January and it's so hot. Without AC. Where is Malwin Joseph? In Abu Dhabi? In Dubai? Oh, okay. You see, Madam Speaker, because they don't have the challenge that a lot of us have to have to go up there and sit down up there for wherever to get treatment. Because if they have pus, they have gas, they can call here ambulance. They can jump on plane and go to the best hospitals because they have the best of everything and the best insurance. Well, the average man on the street here don't have that. We have the Mount St. John Medical Center. Fix it up for the people of this country. Major shortage, Madam Speaker, recently of chemotherapy drugs, extending the timeline for other stages of cancer care to begin with. My constituents of New Winchops, Madam Speaker, they heard by the wayside, a hustling, that due to lack of space, quote, due to lack of space at the public cemetery, the government has decided that all funerals will be directed to Lambert Cemetery in New Winchops and Grand Cemetery in Willikes. They heard that by the wayside. This cemetery in Lambert is a private cemetery. It was given to the community of New Winchops by the Shoals. Thank God for them. But it don't belongs to the government. But rather than have consultation with the people in the community and the community group, they see it like a WhatsApp. They didn't see funeral passing them yesterday. People being buried. Madam Speaker, this will not be allowed to continue. It will not be allowed to continue. If Senator Brown sits back and allow them to do what they like in Willikes, that's him, but it won't happen in St. George. What happened to the monies that we got from CIP for the new cemetery on the Malwin Joseph again? Since 2019, we saw copies of a check. How much $1 million from CIP? Yet, we have no public cemetery, so much so, they have to be trying now to take up people's private cemetery. Madam Speaker, I see you watching your watch, so with those few words, I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member.